Yon. We're live again for another episode of HR Shouts and Whispers. Siyempre, episode number 44 na tayo. Ang topic natin for tonight, organizational development during the pandemic. Siyempre, my name is Ken Sumera and siyempre, ang main host natin, si Christina Reclamado. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ken.
Yon.
Kamusta? Okay.
Ayos.
So,
Excited.
excited.
Daming learnings. Daming learnings tonight. Yeah.
Yes. And also, well, our guest tonight, I'll introduce na kasi ang dami niyang share sa atin because she has 36 years of HR experience, okay? So, and she's also a clinical psychologist, and she used to be a senior fellow and director of human resources and administration from the Development Academy of the Philippines. So, none other, no less, Miss Flor Glinoga. Hi, Miss Flor.
Salamat po, Miss Chris, and good evening, Ken. Thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah, magandang gabi. All right.
Kamusta naman po ang week nyo?
Okay lang. Busy-busyhan. May malang, may magawa.
Okay. So, Miss Flor, okay, so you're a clinical psychologist and OD consultant nowadays. Can I ask you, okay, so because you also had an experience working in government and heading HR of a government agency. So, can you compare how it is, how to be HR of the private sector and of the government sector?
Actually po, government HR and private sector HR are almost the same in terms of functions. So we do recruitment, we do retention, and we do development. The thing is, dito po sa amin, sa gobyerno, there are two big government agencies in charge of yung aming organizational structure, yung budget namin, ang DBM po, the Department of Budget and Management. And when it comes to HR policies and procedures, meron pong government agencies that is considered to be an oversight for every government agency. Ito po yung Civil Service Commission. In private practice po, these functions are actually being done by the concerned HR department. So, autonomous po lahat ng mga nasa private sector when it comes to the practice. But in terms of function, we share the same function, which is RRD, para lang madaling intindihin. We are in charge of recruitment, we are in charge of retention, and we are in charge of development. Let's not forget, of course, the number 4, performs other tasks that may be assigned from time to time. So, wala pong aayaw.
So, yung ano na yan, yung mga from time to time functions, hindi ka pwede humindi.
Hindi po pwede. Kailangan din mag-ano tayo dito, mag-eba-eba, emotional bank account. Kasi at the end of the day, it's about human relations pa rin eh. And our function is basically HR, which is human relations. So, importante po yan. In fact, pag gumagawa ako ng mga job descriptions, lagi kong nilalagay yan eh. Kasi kailangan multitasking na rin tayo.
Okay. So, kailangan agile ka, flexible.
Opo. Ganun na ngayon eh. New normal. Ganun na. Hindi lang ako pang recruitment, pang retention, pang development pa. So, marami po, multifunctions na po tayo.
And let's not forget, okay, you are a licensed clinical psychologist.
Opo.
So, si Miss Flor, actually licensed siya, so nagsasign siya. Can I say this?
I sign po, annulment paper, mga ano po, I even attest in the court. At saka, I had been previously the clinical psychologist of the Vietnamese refugees under the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees way back in the 90s until its closure 1995. So, meron po rin akong clinic sa labas ng Mandaluyong.
Hindi sa loob.
Hindi po sa loob kasi marami na po doon eh. Marami ng population eh.
Okay, Miss Flor, bilang isang clinical psychologist, so dito, it's a stressful, it's a stressful time to work, okay? Kasi meron tayong hindi nako-control na elements, okay? So, what can you say about stress in the workplace?
Stress right now po ay considered as burning out. It's already a sickness physically. At ito po, ang causes ng many major physical problems. Kasi ito po, it affects the heart, it affects our pressure in the blood. So, we need to address that immediately kasi 48 hours po tayo, no? In the government, 48 hours ang requirement sa ano. So, in a week. So, if we are stressed out, what do we do? There should be, may Republic Act 11036 na po tayo at there is also Department Order number 208 20. So requiring that all organizations should have at least someone who knows how to do first aid when it comes to the symptoms of different mental disorders na brought about by stresses. Kasi yun po ang findings ng government ngayon eh. There are 7 cases of suicide every day here in the Philippines. This is validated by World Health Organization. And for every 5 Filipinos, there is 1. Ewan ko kung 1. Yung 1 na yun, exhibiting some kind of symptoms that are not ordinary or not normal. So importante po, meron tayong kaalaman dyan. We need to really identify the symptoms, especially if it has been manifested for 2 consecutive weeks. Kailangan po ma-identify natin there should be proper intervention or referral to the professionals.
So meaning to say, the first aid, what first aid can be done by the HR of a company if there is an employee that is exhibiting mental disorder?
Initially, we do identification of the different symptoms. So it can be considered in terms of risk assessment as mild, moderate, or grave. So kung mild lang po, kailangan natin we need to capacitate the HR to do the coaching as well as the counseling. So kailangan po, they need to undergo some kind of training so that they will be able to identify and then provide this particular first aid to talk to them in terms of coaching, how to do the coaching. There is a protocol for that, how to do the counseling exclusively for professional psychologists lang po ang PRC nagsabi ng ganun. So we can listen as a provider of first aider for those people who are probably exhibiting or manifesting certain symptoms that are not necessarily ordinary.
Okay, so for a more comprehensive training, we'd just like to say that, Ms. Flor has agreed to be a training partner of HR Shouts and Whispers, and we will be able to schedule, okay, in the near future, that kind of training.
Okay, thank you very much po. I hope I can share to you these things so that we can have someone who can provide intervention within the workplaces.
Okay. And ngayon, Ms. Flor, we will talk about organizational development. Kasi to some people, there is a connotation that it's expensive, okay, and that it's too complex, okay, for an organization to do. Okay, so I think you can expound on this more.
Thank you very much for asking because people sometimes misconstrue OD or organizational development as something that is considered to be a status symbol. So in many companies, whenever people will ask, do you have OD in your company? It's a kind of status symbol, but there are differences between hard and soft OD. When we talk about soft OD, these are considered to be services pertaining to the conduct of training. But when we say, for example, hard OD, these are things that we need to restructure. Like, for example, in terms of this pandemic, how do we restructure the organization without hurting people unnecessarily? So this is a transformation. This is a school of thought that probably the change management can be accepted probably will not necessarily hurt people by doing a lot of different interventions. So this is the new normal. How are we going to have this new normal? There should be proper intervention, and I think this is the OD: organizational structure, manpower planning, manpower forecast, considering, of course, our new normal, our pandemic today. So these are hard OD practice.
So let's recap, okay? So when you talk about OD, there are two kinds. There's soft OD. So soft OD is like training interventions,
Yes. So
okay? And then hard OD has something to do with change, okay? Restructuring, planning.
restructuring, planning, and transformation from that of the actual to that of what is the intervention that you're going to do, so that we can transfer to the new normal or to that to be. So
Okay.
we need to have this.
So for this part, Ms. Flor, I think you have prepared a presentation for us.
Yes, I did a lot of some pala, not necessarily all, some
Yeah.
slides with regard
Uh,
to this one. So may I share to you this particular slide? So how do we transform without hurting people, organizational development during COVID-19 pandemic? And so what are the different ways by which you can do that? So ito po ang aking slides. I wonder
so
kung pwede nating ma-move ito.
what you can do is you can share it.
Oo. So, nakikita na po ba itong mga slides na to?
Hindi pa po.
Hindi pa po. Hindi pa po.
So, Ken, we were just talking about OD. Okay, so OD has something to do with yung mga smooth transitions, okay? Because the goal is to make sure that people do not feel harassed or threatened during change.
Yeah. Very important ngayon. Lalo na ngayon. Yeah. Ayan. Okay na.
So, okay na po
Yun.
ba?
Showing
Nakikita
na po.
na. Oo.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. So, this is, ito yung COVID. So, how do we transform and how do we make it easy for everybody? So, there is a kind of technique, the school of thought of organizational development. It can be hard, can be soft. So, for now, even the government are into different ways and means by which we'll be able to transform ourselves to the new normal. So this is my slide, and I'd like to share to you, initially, whenever there are changes, of course, the human nature is for us to deny, for us to have confusion. Sometimes there are losses, a lot of losses when it comes to different changes. So there is a new way of life right now, and sometimes we undergo some kind of changes. OD, on the other hand, if given as a kind of intervention, this is transforming organization to the greatest good and the least harm on people. So hopefully, if we know exactly how to do it, essentially, we can help people to transform, even if we've undergone the denial, the confusion, the loss, as well as the anger, which even me also has undergone many of these human conditions. Whenever there are things like this pandemic, for example, it surprises everybody. So we weren't actually prepared for all of these things. So this OD practice, what I'm saying is the hard OD that even the government is also allowing. So we will now revisit the policies and procedures on the way we manage people. So it's part of the legal basis, but it should also be in consonance with the directive of the Department of Labor and Employment for private sectors, and for government sectors, we should also towards the alignment of the Civil Service Commission and as well as the Department of Budget and Management. We need to also redesign our organization. There are, of course, certain functions that we believe are not anymore necessary. There are also certain decisions by the business owners to also even close. How do we close? These are considered to be authorized causes for termination and how do we go about this. The Department of Labor and Employment has the procedures that we need to follow legally. And we need to also redesign our jobs. Like what I was saying a while ago, there should always be multitasking nowadays. No, it's difficult to have specialization nowadays. So we need to be a generalist. So that's the reason why we need to also do the job redesign, and we need to also visit the wage compensation benefits determination. Even the law, even the Department of Labor is also espousing flexibility in terms of workplace, work from home, different ways and means by which the business can be sustainable. So we need to also honor the decision, the discretion of the owner on whether to continue the business or not. So on whether the decision owner or the decision maker would like to recall back the staff. So many of the staff would decline, but then again, we need to follow company rules and regulations. This is a kind of insubordination. So, but then again, we cannot compel many of our people because the lives are on stake. So what can we do in HR is just perhaps settle for that, accept it, and probably get immediately a replacement. So, but then these people who cannot follow the recall will have to also be given the notice to explain. That's the way it is. There is an existing company rules and regulations and manpower forecast, manpower studies considering the environment today. So these are considered to be hard OD. Okay. On the other hand, the soft OD should also be given as a kind of intervention so that people will know exactly what to do in work from home. There should always be some kind of communication. We should be able to conduct General Assembly. We should be able to conduct focus group discussions, or even one-on-one. So these are some of the remedies or some of the interventions, whether hard or soft. So these are considered to be transforming without hurting people. How can you do that? We have to bear in mind both the interest of the company as well as the interest also of the livelihood of our people. So we are the bridge to both camps.
So may I just interject? Okay, so thank you for clarifying this facets of the OD practice, because yung kadalasan we didn't know that well, first is yung manpower forecasting, manpower studies. We didn't know that was OD. Yung iba kasi yung iba kasi you said OD, we have org dev. It's a status symbol, but ano yung ginagawa nila sa org dev, hindi naman nila masabi. So this bullet points actually enumerates what is considered an OD practice in a company.
Okay. Ito po yung hard OD. And if it cannot be done by the internal, it can be outsourced. So as a consultant po, yan ang aking ginagawa in many of my different projects in different companies. Kasi nga, even if you know, don't. Kasi nga, very sensitive po itong mga different activities under the hard OD, especially when it comes to reorganization or restructuring. So we play the game when we are part of the organization. It takes an outsider. It's not emotional. But these things should be done. Okay? Ito po, ang manpower forecast. Okay? Discretion po ito eh. Kasi there is a ratio that the payroll, which is a forever commitment, should at least be 20% only of the revenue. Pag sumobra na po dyan, lugi na po yung kumpanya, how can it go on? But despite the pandemic, dahil po sa the big heart of many of the businessmen, this is the time for them to return back. Kahit po lugi, they still want to continue. So I'd like to applaud many of the businessmen who make that kind of decision despite the falling revenue or no revenue. Kasi po, ang tagal bago makaano, pero gusto pa rin nila. They wanted to pursue. They have goodwill and the big heart. So we need to also help them And we need to help the company to be understood by people. Kasi galit lahat ng mga tao sa kumpanya eh. So, they're the bridge. We have to talk to our people. Okay? And that is OD. Making it easy. So, how do we do that? Communication is one of the solutions by doing general assembly, town hall, or perhaps even focus group discussions, teamwork. So, team building, team in such a way that there is a discussion. Okay? Brainstorming so that we hear from each other. 10 taon na ako nag-aral, yun lang pala trabaho ko, just to listen eh. Oo. Ang aking pong trabaho as a clinical psychologist, I listen. Not because I'm a speaker here, I will not talk. I'd love to listen. So listening is empathetic. EQ is empathetic listening. So you put yourself on the shoes of the other person. The most powerful word is always, I understand. It's as if you feel, you hear, you experience what the other person is telling you without judgment. Okay po ba? So I wish these things are very clear to us, the OD practice in terms of hard as well as soft OD. So we will continue with our discussion dito po sa School of Thought na to. The success and failure of many companies is based on the leadership practices. So we are the one. Leaders po, ibig sabihin nito, may not necessarily have the appointment in terms of position, the one who can influence anyone. No? So people will follow. The leaders are the one building the culture, the strategy, the performance, as well as the behavior. So dito po talaga, if walk the talk tayo eh. Okay? How can we demand from others what we ourselves cannot do? So kailangan po, we are the model. No? So there should always be unity, high clarity. On the other hand, pag meron na pong disunity, uncertainty, so otherwise, there's a need for OD for this one. No? Oo. Kailangan po kasi na-assess natin, na-diagnose. Kasi OD practitioners are considered to be doctors of organization. Okay? We diagnose first. How do we diagnose? We conduct survey. We conduct focus group discussion. We conduct interview to know what's the problem. No? And then if we have already identified the problem, we prescribe interventions. Interventions are considered to be solutions. And what are these different solutions? Based on the culture, based on the strategy, based on performance and behavior. So these things are being prescribed. It's up to the company to implement. So that's the problem, the implementation. It's very easy to write it down. Very easy to assess, to diagnose. But the problem is, if, for example, the consultant has already left for a 3 months engagement or even 1 month engagement, no? How do we make it happen? So it's up to the people in HR to make it happen by doing the planning, by doing the communication plan, the training plan. All of these things are considered to be due diligence to make it happen, the organizational development or transformation without hurting people. So here, dito po sa OD planning, we need right now in this pandemic, what has to be done on site and in person, what can be done even through remote. So these are considered to be discretionary. Hindi naman po ito compulsory sa lahat. At ito po ay benefit for any company to provide you with work from home. This should be a benefit. Imagine you will not anymore go to the area. It will cost you in terms of transportation, even the stresses of the traffic. So we should be very happy with regards to this kind of benefit. But at any point in time, the company would like to recall you for going back to work. We need to follow. Okay, that's our business. If we are part of any organization, our job is to follow. Anywhere else in the world, if we cannot obey, then we are considered to be a problem. So pumirma po tayo, no? Nagpasakop tayo. Kaya kailangan sumunod po tayo. Kung yung sinusunod nyo naman will affect somehow probably your physical survival, then maybe you can say something about this. Okay? So pagka yung voluntary resignation, wala pong yan, hindi po kasama sa bibigyan ng authorized just causes for termination, wala pong separation pay. So makiusap po tayo. So what can be done? And how do I determine? It's up to the HR people to determine whom you are going to let go, whom you are going to provide work from home, work flexibility, whom you are going to have temporary as well as probably engagement. And how do I make this HR plan? So kailangan po may HR plan tayo. Any kind of plan has our best friends. The what, the who, the where, the when, and then the why, the rationale, the justification, so that people will understand why you are doing that particular activity, and the how. What is important is you provide also the guidelines, the processes. So I hope that the HR planning can be done, which is more acceptable to the people, more acceptable also to the company. Okay? It's good that the company would like to continue the businesses. It's very easy to make a decision to close the company. After all, business is nation building. So that's the reason why we need to support the company. Kaya lang, yung mindset natin, parang galit pa tayo sa kumpanya. No? Hindi po pwede to. We need to conduct all of these different remedies or interventions so that people will be able to understand by conducting regular conversation, regular communication. No? Paulit-ulit po pong sinasabi, tayo po yung agent of changes. Tayo po yung agent to transform it acceptable to everybody, not necessarily hurting everybody. So it's just a matter of talking, by conducting town hall, by conducting general assembly, all the more focus group discussion. If needed, for example, kailangan one-on-one para magkaintindihan. Okay po, so coaching is one of the most powerful kind of transformation OD practice. So here, pag may surplus po tayo, wala po tayong magagawa. So we need to do the HR planning, the manpower forecast, manpower planning, the workforce downsizing, attrition, and hiring freezes, as well as separation programs. Dito po sa if you are in private organization, meron po tayong Article 283. 283 po, no? Yung authorized causes for termination, closure, okay, retrenchment, redundancy. So there are separation pay that you should pay. And there should be an announcement prior to that, to 30 days before the execution, to the Department of Labor and Employment, and at the same time, the concerned incumbent should also be informed that these things will happen. Okay po? And there should be separation pay. May pabaon po tayo kung maaari nga at the discretion of the owner or perhaps the decision maker. You can increase what was given by the Department of Labor and Employment. Kasi po, pag redundancy, ibig sabihin yan, 1 month for every year of service. Okay? Pag retrenchment, okay, you should review the article. So I may not necessarily be in toto saying exactly how much is the pay. But then again, retrenchment, ibig sabihin losses yan. Pag redundancy po kasi 100, 1 month for every year of service. Pag retrenchment po, yung capability to pay, parang hindi na kaya. So that's the reason why. Half month for every year of service. Okay po? So pag closure po, talagang 1/2 month lang po yan. But you can make it sweet. Ang mga tawag dyan sa HR, gratuity plan, gratuity pay. Okay? You can increase what was given at the minimum by the dole. So these things, ito po, trabaho ng HR po ito. Considering, for example, the company is not earning anymore. So there is a surplus. So for the company to continue the business, magkakaroon po ng skeletal force, may mga work arrangement, but these things has to be approved by the dole, has to also be agreed upon by the concerned employee. So hindi po tayo arbitrary, agad-agad, ganun na lang. Meron pong agreement So pag MWF lang yung trabaho mo, no? Kailangan po may agreement tayo dito. Okay? Kaysa sa wala, yung iba nga allowance lang binibigay. Hindi nga nagpa-follow, but there's an agreement that there should be considering the pandemic. So pwede po
linawin natin, Miss Flor, okay? So meron na kasi ngayon yung RKS Form 5. Okay, ito ay sinasubmit sa, ito yung establishment report na sinasabi.
Mm-mm.
Sinasubmit yan sa DOLE. So, meron po doon na portion sa sign-on ng employees representative, tapos yung HR. Okay, aside
Mm-mm.
from that form, ang ginawa ko kasi po, lahat, yung lahat ng empleyado namin, pinasignan namin ng agreement. Tapos kinan namin, kasi yung time na yun, manual pa yung submission eh. Ngayon kasi
Mm-mm.
pwede nang ano eh, i-submit sa isang website. Meron na silang process niyan. Kaka-announce lang. Pero kami kasi, dati pa namin nagawa yun. So,
Mm-mm.
pagkatapos mo masubmit yung form na yon, i-attach mo yung mga agreement na yon.
Opo. So, this is the proper way. Yun po talaga ang hinahanap kasi magkaiba po yung authorized causes for termination and just causes for termination. So, magkaiba po yan. Yung just causes for termination po, wala pong separation pay yan. So, here, because of the pandemic, ito po are considered to be authorized causes of termination. Pag nag-resign po, wala pong makukuha yan. Wala pong makukuha unless yung conversion ng kanilang 13th month pay, conversion ng kanilang leave benefits. So, pag deklarado, kaya kinakailangan po mag-declare to the government. And we need, in OD po, we need to develop flexible telework. We need to also review the leave benefits and create policies considering the pandemic. We need to also prevent face-to-face activity if it's possible. Some of the different interventions that we can do is to consider cohorting. Yung magkakagrupo po, group 1, group 2 na pare-pareho. Should anyone become positive, at least yung grupo lang na yun. So that's the meaning of cohorting, and then staggered the break times to avoid groups. Kasi kailangan na talaga natin dito, no? To avoid CCC, the 3C. Oo. Contacts, contamination, no, crowded places, and promote etiquette for coughing and sneezing as well as hand washing. Kailangan po may mga posters tayo para dyan, para to remind everybody. So it's a gift that we are being given to go back to earn our livelihood. Otherwise, may hunger na po tayo. Kaya for us not to be a victim of COVID, no? Kailangan po, we need to observe all of these new protocols, new normal. And how do we do that? It's for HR to communicate properly. Everybody has to follow. And there are, of course, engineering controls. We have to also assess the job hazards, ensure ventilation of our places, and alter workplaces so that there will be a 6 feet distance. Distansya, amigo. Kailangan po merong ganito. Oo. At may mga findings na ngayon na talagang airborne daw ang ang coronavirus. Oo, this COVID virus. Disinfect and clean the workspaces and provide access to soap, clean water, 70% alcohol. No? If you demand that people will return back to work, you make sure that these protocols also are in place. So HR should be the one doing that because we are the one actually in charge of safety committee. So here, in terms of employee relations, how do we address and how do we protect the well-being of our people? It's just a matter of communication. So we need to manage the concerns of our workers by ensuring the protocols are in place, to communicate with our employees through General Assembly, through perhaps group discussions, through focus group discussions, even one-on-one. And we need to identify also someone who should be a coordinator with regards to COVID-19 and prepare business continuity also as HR in terms of those who have significant absenteeism and those who are to be suspended. Kailangan po may plano tayo dyan. Who will assume the absorptive capacity of people? So establish emergency coordination plan as well as share response plans and clearly communicate expectations of the company. So ito nga work from home na to, ano ba ang expectations? Should be very clear. Ano ba ang KPI nila? Kasi hindi na po abay attendance to. Sabi nga nila, mas mahirap nga raw work from home eh. Kahit linggo, nagtatrabaho, kahit gabing-gabi na, hindi na makakain. Kasi nga, they should be able to have results. whenever demanded. So mas mahirap nga raw po ang on call ka parate. No? Parang wala na tayong karapatang kumain, wala nang karapatang matulog kasi nga on call ka parate kahit linggo. Oo. So yan na po ang pangyayari ngayon. This is the new normal. We need to deliver the results. Okay po? So how do we make it easy? Kaya nga OD na naman ang sagot diyan eh. The intervention requires OD. Pagplanuhan po natin. Ha? Okay po. So ngayon nga, nire-require na nga ngayon ng DepEd na kayo na rin ang magtuturo sa mga anak natin. Eh. Oh.
Ganun ba?
Oh. Kayo na nga magtuturo through blended learning. Kayo na po.
Yung parent.
Oo, yung parents.
Yung parent, tuturuan ng mga teachers para i-support learning or yung education.
Yung classroom nyo po nasa bahay na. Like what but do they have the capability, the competencies also, as well as the time? Yun nga yung problema. Pag work from home ka, ang dami talagang requiring time.
Well, so, mahirap ang work from home kasi minsan, kung halimbawa yung space nyo sa bahay, magkakadikit din kayo mag-anak, mahirap yung distraction. So, ang ina-advise namin is dapat meron kayong sarili talaga na work area na hindi kayo maiistorbo. And also, it was also one of the challenges kasi minsan meron kaming one-on-one talks ng empleyado. Okay, ito yung part na magpapagsabihan sila. Nire-remind namin yung may guideline kami na confidentiality. Tapos, syempre, na dahil nasa Zoom kayo, hindi natin alam. Nire-require namin naka-headset yung mga empleyado. Kasi pagka naka-speaker, so mabo-broadcast yung sinasabi mo doon sa buong bahay. So, mag-react yung, minsan may nag-react na tita sa akin kasi sumagot siya. Sabi ko, sino yon? Sabi ng tita ko po, i-remind kita na dapat naka-headset tayo. Tapos, pag may pinag-uusapan na ganito, syempre dapat hindi within earshot nung kamag-anak mo. Kasi yung mga pinag-uusapan namin, minsan hindi naman siya about performance, about the work. And we're dealing with financial accounts. So, mahirap yung mga detalye na yun na malaman ng ibang tao.
Opo, kailangan talaga merong mga ganyang work from home arrangements that should be part of company rules and regulations. So discretionary po based on the uniqueness of your business. So here, kailangan natin ng training din kasi ngayon talagang kailangan teki-teki ka na. Yung genre ko po, baby boomer kami. I'm already 62.
Pero naka-Zoom kayo.
Kaya hindi kami talaga very techy, but trying very hard to learn something because of the pandemic. Everything has to be data-driven technology and digitization na ngayon ang option. So we need to learn something from that, yung mga online resources, as well as we need to also continuously train our people how to manage physically. Kasi lalong-lalo na ang mental wellness program. There is always anxiety, anger, depression, even suicidal tendencies because of this pandemic. So we need to have programs for that in place. Kahit po pandemic, nagkakandak pa rin po tayo nitong mga physical development programs. So we need to have posters in English and train and support our employees with regards to online as well as educate and train employees with regards to the spread about facts on COVID-19 pandemic and supplement the employees' required training with regards to safety and hazards as well as health standards. Additional training po and information regarding to signs and symptoms of infection to prevent exposure to the virus. So ito po, kailangan natin, we need to conduct as a kind of intervention. Knowledge is power. Kailangan po may distinction. Baka medyo nagkakaroon na ng anxiety. No? Yun naman pala, hindi naman pala COVID. Mere cough lang pala o kaya flu. So there should always be information in regards to that. And it's up to the HR people to conduct this intervention. And of course, when it comes to physical wellness, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In these times, we need to absorb many different functions, many tasks. Sometimes we are spread thinly. We have stresses of the job. We sometimes cannot cope with the functions, with the tasks that are given to us, and there is always fatigue. No?
Yeah.
Essentially, ang human po will be very productive only from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. In excess of that, wala na po. There is burning out. Burning out physically, mentally, socially, emotionally. So, in
So
fact,
that's a study. That's a scientific fact from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
opo, there's a study about that sa Psychology Today po.
Mm-hmm.
It was published by our journal.
That's why long hours of overtime is also not advisable.
That's correct. We are now vulnerable to accidents, vulnerable perhaps to non-efficiency or unproductiveness. So in here, we need to also cultivate safety. No? Yung pong mga PPEs, kasi minsan matitigas ang ulo eh. We need to implement that. So it's the task of the supervisors and the managers concerned that these things has to be implemented and these things have to be followed. We need to also provide physical activities like yoga, walking, or Tai Chi every now and then. Every 2 hours, we need to stand up and walk. If, for example, you are in your laptop, for 2 hours po, kailangan po tumatayo tayo, walk around, or do something. So, there should be rituals that like deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Oo, this is the best type of physical exercise. Inhale, exhale to probably lessen the anxiety, lessen the worry, as well as even the anger. Kahit nga mga military, bago yung bumaril ang turo sa kanila, inhale, exhale ka muna eh. If someone that you don't like, if someone is bullying you, inhale, exhale din yung intervention dyan eh. No? Deep breathing exercises. So these things, we should teach that. We should also develop that to our people to lessen the stresses, the everyday stresses. Kasi normal naman ng mga stresses eh. Stresses can be positive because it can push you to do something. But pag distress yan, negative, that means to say you need to cope with that. One of the coping mechanism is deep breathing, breathing exercises, physical walking, okay, yoga, okay. Kaya yung mga from the India, meron silang is a sound of perfection. Meron silang
ganon.
Oo, may ganun-ganun pa. So, meron nga silang I teach laughter medicine. Okay, even if there is nothing that is funny or laughable, ito po, ito yung mga tinuturo natin dun sa mga cancer patients. Para kasi pilita coralis na talaga, gaganong ka. Oo, parang yung laughter mo comes from the diaphragm. Parang kumakanta ka. Tapos,
para mabuksan, para ma-expand yung muscles.
That's correct. That's correct po. It's a kind of physical activity that can probably provide you with positivity. Then, of course, we have to also provide the mental wellness program, which I am a proponent and I espouse for that since my background, by profession, I'm a clinical psychologist. So we need to have that, especially so because this is already mandated by Republic Act 11036 and supported by the Department of Labor and Employment Order number 208/2020 or 20 that requires all organizations, whether public or private, that you should have mental wellness program. And there should be a first aid. There should be an intervention for those exhibiting symptoms considered to be quite abnormal. For 2 consecutive weeks po, kailangan po nabibigyan na natin yan ng intervention. What are the interventions that you can do? Coaching and counseling. Never leave them. No? Allow them to talk. psychological air or talk therapy. Ibig sabihin po, 80% ng conversation should be allowing them the psychological air for them to talk and talk and talk. Kasi alam naman talaga nila, bago naman yung pumunta sa iyo alam naman nila kung ano solution sa buhay nila no? Oo, we need to rephrase, we need to mimic. This is what we call, yun na nga, EQ. EQ is equivalent to, yun, empathetic listening. Empathy.
Ma'am,
Yes.
Miss Flor, meron kasi kaming nakitang parang it's a public service tip, okay, on how to change yung work schedule
Mm.
during pandemic. And one of it, okay, nakalagay doon, during lunchtime, so staggered ngayon, hindi sabay-sabay kakain.
Mm.
Okay, and if possible, eat alone. Paano yan, ma'am? Napaka-lonely. Baka maging lonely sila.
Loneliness and sadness, yun na nga Anong ginagawa ng cellphone nyo?
Okay.
Diba?
Use technology.
Use technology. Ngayon nga, nag-uusap tayo Hindi naman kailangan yung natin, yung there is no contact at all. Isn't it? Ang kausap natin, actually, nakikita lang natin. Use technology. There's a reason for that. So call people. Talk to people through the cell phone. Through perhaps using the Zoom. Oo. It may cost money, but then again, this is the best way to connect. This is the best way to support people. To ask them how they are and talk to them. Oo. Anything that I can do for you? Para tayong Oo. How may I help you? Yung kaagad ang mga turo natin sa mga customer service provider. Oo. So if we can do that and we support one another, we are our brothers keepers, then we are providing this kind of intervention. So increase the consistency as much as possible yung schedule natin, may routine, no? Kung before the pandemic, ganito ang routine mo. Ito, you wake up at 6 o'clock. Kaya nga, kinausap ko ni Miss Chris. Kung pwede raw, alas 9, alas 10 po, tulog na po ako. Matanda na po. May routine ako. Pinapalo ko talaga yung routine ko. Kasi at exactly 6 o'clock, gising na po ako. Oo. Whatever happens, even before, parang may body clock ako So, increase our mindfulness through meditation. Ayan nga yung mga sinasabi ko, yoga. Oo. So, meron din marami tayong meditation. I wish I can teach you that because this is one way to really help people in terms of those with different symptoms. Okay? Madali lang naman po. Those people who are have anxiety or have anger, di ba? May palpitation sila. It manifests in their they have nervousness. Buti hindi nagkakaroon ng nervous breakdown, no? They are afraid of something. May mga phobia po yan So how do you cope and how do you handle? Okay? We need to have this mindfulness. We need to walk. We need to even during the pandemic. But
yes,
yung
that's correct.
Po, dapat we need to observe. Oo.
Kasi that's also what we remind our people, our employees. Okay, so if you're going to work, diba? Make sure that if you're feeling not really stressed, but there's a time kasi when you're working, you feel uncomfortable and a little edgy. So that's the time to stand up and then just take a few rounds walking. So, yun yung ina-advise namin. Parang meron silang mini break. So, not entirely nakaupo ka and typing all the time. So Ken, Miss Flor is finished with her mini lecture on org development in the time of the pandemic. Are there questions from our viewers?
Yeah, i-check lang natin. Siyempre, mag-hi tayo sa mga nanonood ngayon, di ba? Hi, hi, hi. Comment kayo dyan if ever mayroon kayong question. Ito si Donna, kanina nag-comment si Donna. Sabi ni Donna, payroll must only be 20% of the company revenue for the company to survive. Tapos may check. Tapos always listen. May check. Yan. Walk the talk. Otherwise, we cannot demand from people the things we cannot do ourselves. Yan. So pa, anywhere else in the world, if we cannot obey, then we are considered a problem. Mhm. Business means nation building. FWA and WFH setup must be communicated well and agreed upon. Yan, nag-note si Donna. Yun. Um, yeah, wala pa naman tayong question. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I have a question. Miss Flor, with all the coach, well, you're doing coaching din naman
Mhm.
kasi, okay? What is the most common question that was asked from you
As a psychologist or as an HR practitioner?
as a psychologist?
So, as a psychologist, what do I do? I
Oh,
wanted to
okay.
be normal again.
Okay. So,
So, isn't it the reason why? Because there's a stigma. Every time that they see someone like me, there's always a stigma. So that's precisely the reason why I maintain my clinic, because
mm,
I cannot go to the office. They have
Mhm.
to go to my clinic to guarantee anonymity. Because
I
Oh.
see.
if they see me, if someone will go to me,
Mhm.
okay, they are already tagged with that stigma. Up to now, we have that stigma. So anything with regards to mental disorder or mental, these are common. These are all common. And there is always a cure for that. Okay? How can we sentence somebody? For example, someone who says he will commit suicide tomorrow. You should be serious about these things. Yung iba ko nga mga pumupunta sa akin, sabihin mo sa akin, text mo ako. Oo, bago ka mag-commit ng ganyan. And 2 lives, I saved 2 lives. Kasi sinabihan ko eh. Oo, they are serious when they declare. You have to be very serious about these things. For those people who are depressive or always sad and lonely, there is a cure for that. We should not condemn these people that they will forever will have that kind of sickness, because this is a sickness. There is a cure.
Okay. So, among genders, okay, male or female, okay, ano yung mas frequent na pumupunta sa inyo?
Karamihan po kasi mga lalaki. Kasi kahit mag-inuman yung mga yan, hindi naman nila sasabihin eh. They need a professional to talk something quite sensitive. To talk something. Eh tayo namang babae, kahit may mga kapitbahay tayo, kahit madaling araw, ikwento lang natin. If you
Ay,
read a book,
kumare!
pare, may problema ako. Ayan, paglabas mo, okay ka na. Eh nasabi mo na eh. Karamihan po mga lalaki, and based on findings po, mga lalaki rin po ang karamihan nagko-commit ng suicide because of the fact that they cannot express very well their sentiments. Okay po? Oo, lalo na sa kultura natin. Macho tayo eh. Oo. And they need to be referred to a professional.
Yan.
I see.
Meron tayong question, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fire away.
basahin muna natin syempre yung mga comments from our friends. Sabi ni Benjamin Caruncho III, "Good evening, Dr. Flor Ginoga. I was your business coach student in training needs analysis." Yan. Yun, sabi niya. Tapos, may question tayo coming from kay Bong. Hi, Bong. Kamusta? Yeah, can you share, una muna, interesting inputs. Glad to hear also that we need to address the vulnerabilities of each one. Yun, sabi niya kanina. And then ito yung question ni Bong. Can you share basic debriefing or processing guide if one employee is found to be COVID-19 positive and has to be sent home?
There should always be an administrative protocol about these things. If identified immediately, they have to go to the proper authorities for proper contact tracing, as well as, of course, for medical interventions. And this should be part of the protocol that you should implement in your company. And we need to follow that. So first of all, HR, because you are in charge of safety, uh, you need to immediately, no, send the person or escort the person to the hospital, to the thing, because this is medical, this is health issue po, no? At kailangan po may intervention kaagad medically sa health. And at the same time, you have to report immediately to the proper authorities sa barangay po, kasi kailangan natin ng contact tracing dito. Yan nga yung sinasabi ko, yung cohorting eh. para yung grupo lang na yon, exclusive sa grupo na yon, yun ang ano natin. And of course, anyone who enters into your organization or premises, kailangan po may pangalan, may contact tracing. So precisely that's the reason why you can never enter any organization or buildings today or premises without writing down your name for purposes of contact tracing.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated nowadays. So, but for the debriefing, I prepared also as a suggestion. There was a debriefing program that I prepared because during ECQ, we were all anticipating good news, okay, that it will be lifted and we can all go back to the office. So one of the debriefing sessions would be talking about what happened, and then each one of the employees will share. Okay, if not in public, they can go to HR and then share whatever feelings or inputs or insights that they have. Sa office kasi I encourage talking, and for the introverted ones I encourage writing. So they can just send me like an email, an essay of what happened to them. Okay, and then we will talk about what happened. And then if there was something that happened, like he fears that meron siyang COVID or he may have gotten in contact with that, we asked that person if they were able to get the name of that person. Para meron kaming Excel sheet lang kung ano yung location, ano yung place. Tapos para pagka nagkaroon siya ng COVID, kasi of course pagka nasa hospital ka na, 'di ba, if the doctor declares that they need to undergo COVID testing, more or less baka may COVID na siya, or parang the chances are he may have COVID already. Sasagutin ng company, di ba? And then the company will also facilitate the reporting to the barangay.
So we need to observe all of these different protocols. Okay. Dictated po ng government yan, what to do, the processes, the procedures. Nakalagay po yan sa Department of Labor and Employment. At the same time, it was announced by IATF, yung pong committee. So we need to just implement, we need to follow. May mga orders po yan in combination with different government agencies.
Kasi yung debriefing is just for the purpose of acknowledging the fear, di ba? Kasi lahat tayo that traumatized and then nabigla. So you just have to just communicate or vent it, and then after that there's a resolution, and then the company should be able to give a new set of guidelines kasi i-change mo mag-i-evolve yung guidelines kasi depende na naman sa announcement ng government yun.
Opo. So, kailangan gagawa pa rin tayo ng customized.
Yes, customization. Tsaka ang mahirap kasi sa sitwasyon natin, wala siyang end. Diba? Diba? Kasi nag-start lang siya ng March 17. Hanggang ngayon, hindi pa siya nag-i-end. Unlike the other events, diba? We can say na after 3 months, may end na. Then wala na siya. Ito, it's ongoing. Okay? Hindi natin alam kung kailan matatapos.
Wala pang vaccine eh.
So, tanungin naman natin si Ken. Kasi si Ken, ang discipline niya is NLP. Okay, so Ken, itong sinasabi ni Miss Flor and then yung question on debriefing, how would you suggest debriefing?
In terms sa debriefing kasi, ang daming pwedeng tingnan eh. Pero ang importante dito is everything being communicated clearly? 'Di ba? I mean, may mga times kasi na diretso-diretso lang yung forms of communication natin eh. Parang sobrang short lang. That's it. Maganda dito kung meron din tayong parang guidelines coming from people who are really experienced in it. Kasi there are some companies, syempre, bago lang. Diba? And syempre, hindi nila alam yung mga dapat gawin pag debriefing. So, that could also be a good topic. Diba?
How to debrief.
How to debrief. Kasi, I mean, there are people who do this on like a daily basis, lalo sa mga big companies. Diba? And those people who have that experience can easily shed light to a lot of like HR practitioners or people who does this, so that all people who needs to be debriefed gets actually the right ano, alam mo yun, the right
Mhm.
information and everything.
It needs to be done properly, and it's cannot be done haphazardly.
Yeah, I think it's very very important din eh. Lalo na kung syempre, 'di ba, paalis ka or something like that. I mean, at least you're well informed kung ano yung mga dapat gawin, dapat hindi mo gawin, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So I think there's I was just looking at my cell phone. So here. So it says that there's a question. Okay. How hi. So from Ryan McTrevor. Okay.
Meron. Yeah.
So hi, good evening. Is it true that 80% of salary per day was approved by Dole? No, it's not. That wasn't the exact wording. It means you can reduce work hours. You can choose the form of flexible work arrangement. It's reduced work hours. You can work from home, and you can also do forced leave. And the salary would depend on the number of hours, but it was not stipulated by Dole to reduce it and make it 80%.
Yeah.
But I saw your Tina ba yun, the one who published about concerns with regards to
Mm-hmm.
the dole.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that, and it's well said, well researched. So
Yes.
anything with regards to it was published by HR Shouts, and this is
Yeah.
consistent with what I've been saying all along.
Yeah, that's Tina Ko Ang is one of our
Yeah.
moderators, and she constantly writes articles on compensation, especially in the time of COVID, especially on flexible work arrangements.
Yes.
I
Well
think
researched.
yes.
Very good.
So congratulations, Tina.
Yeah, meron pa tayong question by the way. Meron tayong question coming from, I think it's yeah, kay Benj meron din tayong question kay Benj, pero basahin ko muna yung kay Jingjing AS. Sabi niya, Miss Flor, I would just like to ask how to manage employees na ayaw mag-report sa work kasi they are afraid of being exposed outside. Can we require during this time because there is also a business need? I mean, I think ang question niya kung pwede ba nila i-require yung mga employees nila to go to work?
Yes.
Papasukin.
The answer is yes. Kasi covered sila ng company rules and regulations that they need to report back to work. If for example, consistent sila na awol sila, abandonment of work yan eh. Oo, for 5 consecutive days, we need to inform them that they are out of the payroll anymore. So these are the remedies that are legal basis for losing the job. And at the same time, we need to also inform them that they will be given notice of explanation or show cause order why they are not following company rules and regulations, including the demand to report back to work.
Sa gobyerno ho ba, meron po bang ganong process yung NTE? Paano ho ba ginagawa sa gobyerno?
It's just the same.
Okay.
It's just the same po. So, analogous naman po lahat ng company rules and regulations in the government as well as in the private. What is bad or good in your company is of course bad or good. In another company, it's analogous.
Okay, so let's backtrack a bit, okay? So this one is always about salary and compensation. Okay, you mentioned the budget should be 20%. The salary should only cover 20% of the total expenses. That's the budget. Can we explain that, why it's 20%, Miss Flor?
Whenever we have businesses, there should always be a guarantee of at least 20% to the investor. Ako po, as a consultant, I distribute that to every group. For people in the operations, their mandate is to get revenues. And for people in the support group, their mandate is cost savings. So lahat pong yan, dapat meron silang contribution to profit. Profit is derived from revenue and savings. So kailangan po may guarantee tayo. So ito po, payroll is a forever commitment. As a businessman, ako po may mga negosyo rin. Kinikwenta ko po yan. Oo. Kasi yung kung budget, yung profit and loss. Kailangan yung budget natin dyan, which are expenses, should not exceed 20%. Otherwise, lugi na po tayo. No? This is normal in any kind of businesses all over the world. No? As a businessman, we are looking into all of these different expenses. We cannot give what we do not have. We first have to have. Isn't it the reason why we go into business? To at least get 20%? Eh ako nga, construction business ako eh. 300% ang gusto ko eh.
Mhm.
Yung margin of profit ko po, gusto ko 300%. I will join in the bidding if there is a guarantee of 300%, the minimum of which is 30%. At tinututukan ko po ang payroll ko. Oo, kailangan po, lalo na sa DAP, we don't get any appropriations from the government. We exercise quite similar to that of tinititigan ko po lahat ng expenses. Okay? So, on a month-to-month basis po, kailangan may revenue. And the revenue, no? Should have the expenses not more than 20%, especially with regards to payroll.
Kasi
Okay,
kasi I think kasi yun yung confusion nila. People often ask me, okay, so halimbawa may capital ka ng 1 million, okay, ano dapat yung para sa salary? Ngayon kasi, 'di ba meron tayong Pareto principle, 'di ba? 80-20.
Pareto, oo.
Yeah. So, dapat, yung mga overhead mo, total yon 20%. Malaki pa nga yung sinabi nyo na it should not exceed 20% kasi dapat yon meron pa tayong salary, meron tayong utilities, madami yon, okay? So, yun yung, kasi parang 20% effort should yield 80% results.
Yield 80%. Pareto principle, 80-20 principle. Oo. So we follow that. This is a universal practice. Lahat ng negosyante ganun. As a consultant po, dinidistribute ko yan eh. So that everybody has to contribute to the profit. No? Oo. So yun pong expenses natin has to be monitored, has to be controlled. Para there will be something also as a kind of return.
Of course. Okay. So any more questions, Ken?
Yeah, so sorry, nakamute ako. Lols. Ito, sabi ni Benj, a statement niya kanina to. Doc, I think it takes time. It takes time for COVID suspects to undergo processing and debriefing because there is that tendency of feeling blamed either by others or by self. Tapos, meron statement ulit tungkol to sa debriefing, yung usapan natin kanina. My understanding of debriefing, any debriefing, but particularly in agile project management, is sitting down and discussing what went right, what went wrong, why, and what can be learned. The typical Filipino culture, insofar as I have experienced, is sisihan. Okay, so ang question ni Benj dito is, how can we get past the culture of blaming? Nice question, bro. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lead the way, man. Okay? Whatever you are preaching, no? Do not allow this negativity to even affect anyone. Stay away from people who are negative and probably turn them around by talking to them, by conducting coaching and counseling. Okay po ba? So, talk to them. That's the reason why we meet. We have brainstorming. There's no judgment. Everybody has their own opinion. There should always be respect in terms of diversity. Okay? Walk the talk, man. Gawin mo.
Well, the culture of blaming, when you're holding it, okay, the person that's leading it should be instrumental in the tone of that meeting. So if the tone is, diba, blaming, yun talaga yung mangyayari. But I think that you should conduct it in it's not light, okay, but it should be matter of factly, and people should be with the purpose to inform. Okay, so
may style nga si 6 thinking hats eh. You should be assigned yung mga negative na yan, black hat. Oo. Meron din silang kasaysayan eh. Oo. Kailangan din natin yung mga versions ng mga nega. Ha? Oo. So, it's up to us to turn around. That's our business, to turn around.
It will also help to structure the content. to end with a positive note. Kasi nasa outline nyo yan and you should follow the outline. But I suggest before going into the mob, okay, you should talk with the line managers first and brainstorm and construct the message.
Yan.
Talagang the best talaga ang communication. This is the only thing that probably even the machine cannot duplicate. So, ito po, hold on to that. The communication is an intervention, very powerful intervention.
Yan. Sabi ni Benjamin Garuncio III, will do, Doc. Yan sabi niya. Thank you. Ayun.
Okay.
Yeah, wala na naman tayo. Guys, may questions pa ba kayo? Yeah.
No, because actually a lot of people are, thinking, OD, the reason that we wanted to have like OD as a topic now is because there are certain things that we already do and we thought it wasn't OD because there is this connotation and reputation of OD that it's so high level that you would need something or a lot of budget to undertake it in the company. Anyway, for those who are, wait, there's a pahabol by Pam Hirang. Okay, so just there's feedback
Yeah,
from Miss Pam
ikaw
Hirang.
na.
So we are in the pharma industry. Okay, we tried to resume normally from June 15, but after evaluation, the sales were very low. Dermatologists and ophthalmologists are not fully operational, and most of them avoid med reps. Okay, can we go back to reduce working days and
Work from home.
WFH, work from home? Well, all businesses are unique, but let's see what Miss Flor's perspective is. So this is in the pharma company, okay, and because sales are low, okay, because all the ophthalmologists, their clients who are dermatologists and ophthalmologists are avoiding their med reps. Maybe not avoiding, but maybe they're trying to streamline their visitors. Okay, so can we go back to reduced working days or work from home? So definitely yes, okay, because it's a manner of conserving operational expense. And then you can also opt to choose reduced work days.
Actually, anything that we want in business is discretionary on the part of the decision maker, for as long as it follows the minimum requirements of the law. So, negosyo po nila yan, negosyo po ninyo, whatever flexible arrangement between that of the business owner or top management, we need to implement that. So, you need to advocate for that, if that's the case, if that's what you want, so that top management will also know and make a decision about whether they will also be amenable to that particular request of work from home or reduction, because the economy is very tight. Global po ito. This is a global pandemic po. Oo. At different arrangements can be done uniquely and customized to your own particular businesses. So that's what I'm saying. Discretionary po, absolute po ang power ng may-ari. Okay po? Oo, absolute po for as long as they follow the minimum requirements of the law. Kung paano nila gagawin yan, discretion po nila yan. That's their authority. Okay? Different po sa amin sa gobyerno.
Miss Flor, so I asked you what was the most common questions that was asked to you as a psychologist. Now, can I ask you as an HR consultant, as an OD consultant, what are the most common questions that have been asked to you?
Always improvement, how to do things better. So precise, that's the reason why I'm also MBB. No? Oo. MBB is Master Black Belt. Six Sigma.
Six Sigma.
Six Sigma. So that
Black
means
belt.
Black belt po, black belt teacher ng mga process improvement, process innovation. Ang DAP po kasi is the think tank of the government. We have to acquire all of these different modern things to help to have intervention. productivity improvement programs, and we need to teach this and replicate ourselves to others. That's our job po. So it was an opportunity for me to be given that chances. Kasi nga, siguro they understand that they have also the ability to invest on learning. Kaya po ngayon, dapat nag-invest na po tayo sa learning kasi pag busy-busy na naman tayo, busy-busyhan, wala na tayong time. This is the best time for us to invest on learning, continuous learning. No? We cannot give what we do not have. We first have to have. Kailangan po punong-puno tayo. Kahit punong-puno pa rin, we should have the humility that the cup is not full.
Okay. So anyway, we already announced that Miss Flor will be in a surprise training hosted by HR Shouts and Whispers. Okay. And then, but aside from that, what are you busy with, Miss Flor?
Right now, I'm in a lockdown. I'm already a senior. So, it's so risky to go out. Okay? Napagalitan pa nga ako sa City Hall eh. Kayong mga matatanda, huwag kayong labas na labas. Problema pa kayo namin eh.
So, naka-lockdown kayo.
Ang daming risk eh. Lalo na, medyo diabetic pa ako. Oo, kaya I observe the protocol. Kaya lockdown muna tayo. Oo, mema lang, may magawa. Ito nga, mema to eh, may magawa. Something to do. You have something to do. Kaya eto po, busy-busy yan tayo. Something to do.
No, but we're sharing your wisdom to our viewers, okay? And Ken, okay, so you have been busy the whole day as well? Can you share with us?
Had a good run kanina. Attended a chatbot workshop with Neil Reichel under Advanced Sales Institute. Hi, then kay Jonica at kay George Ramos. And ito, meron tayong last question. Okay lang, Chris?
Yes, sure.
Question. Ang question is, what should companies do to better prepare employees for eventual in-office work? Yeah.
Eventual ano yan?
In-office
Pabalik
work.
na sila.
Pagpabalik na sila ng office. Yeah.
It's a mandate eh, by the company. They have to return back to work. So, it's their decision. No? Kasi tayo, pag sinabi ng magulang natin, huwag ka munang pupunta dyan, exposed ka, makontaminate ka. O, di mag-resign na lang sila. We should have the respect to also submit resignation if that's the case. O kaya makiusap ka ng separation. You've been around for 20 years, 10 years, there should always be separation pay for that. So, wala namang kung pwede nga makipag-negotiate, which is about communication. But if required to return back to work, it is a mandate. Pag mandato po ng kumpanya, it's a law. This is a legal basis and they should follow. Anyone who cannot follow, there is always violation of company rules and regulations. You will be given show cause order of insubordination. No? HR po ako eh, matindi ako eh, kaya nga, makita lang ako, kinakatakutan na talaga.
Well, 36 years, okay, of experience.
Yeah.
But I think that's also the style of handling how you're cascading the information. If you're handling, because the usual mistake in doing announcements by HR is dapat sa small group muna pag sensitive. Kasi that is a sensitive, that's a sensitive kind of information.
Communication is the best.
So handle it within the small group of line managers.
Focus group discussion.
Yes, and then get the feel of how the employers are feeling through the line managers. You can do it through Zoom. Okay? Kasi yan naman ang trabaho ng line managers. Communicate to HR what's happening. Kasi kung HR ang didiretso, kasi hindi natin alam, nag-enjoy na sila sa work from home arrangement nila, di ba?
Kaya nga sinasabi natin, it's a benefit eh. And it's not permanent. No? If you will be recalled back by the company, you have to follow. Kung meron kang problema sa ganyan, then the door is always wide open.
Hindi kasi, Miss Flor, I'll tell you, some kasi pumalik sa probinsya nila. So baka kasi sa amin naman kasi may guidelines. So if your guidelines are very clear for work from home, it should also include how to get back to work. I mean, to go back to work. Na, okay, so once there is an announcement that people are safe to go back to work, okay, so we must know that if you are in the province, first is dapat pagka nag-travel ang employee sa probinsya, bubalik kasi mas cost effective yun para sa kanya. Dapat magsabi sila sa
Opo.
management. Oo, kasi you have to communicate where you are.
But management can also help, di ba? Pwede rin namang stay in the premises or probably mag-provide ng mga transportation. Although it's not being required, but for purposes of goodwill, for purposes of retention, pwedeng gawin. No?
Oo. So communication nga lang. Okay. So dapat na-anticipate natin 'yon. Kung hindi pumayag si management, okay lang kasi hindi naman siya required eh. Pero that should have been in your guidelines already.
So, ayan po, kailangan ding you need each other eh. Ang company needs people eh. So, make it easy for everybody. There is an assurance na hindi naman sila mako-contaminate because there are protocols. At the same time, maybe you can provide also yung living areas ninyo to sa premises para hindi lang work from home, work in the office na. Work in the,
Well,
ganun eh.
That's one of the things that we considered, okay? People who were going to go like work for 1 week, tapos shift na naman, another set will go 1 week. But it was, overall, what happened was it was still more practical and cost-effective that everyone go on work from home. Ngayon, ito, example din, another nitty-gritty, just a nitpicking lang, okay? Annual physical exam. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is the rule? Usually mandatory yan. Sa amin, kasi it's not safe to go out ngayon. Okay, with the rising numbers. That's a fact. So what we did was, we scheduled the annual physical, but with our HMO, 1 year naman ng expiration eh. So, ngayon, hindi siya mandatory. It's voluntary. Kasi kung sino lang ang pwede. Kung halimbawa, feeling niya sa area niya, hindi naman ganun kadami yung COVID and it's relatively safe, then they can go. Diba? Pero there are areas like Mandaluyong, kasi hot spot ata yan hanggang ngayon eh. So,
number 3 po ang Mandaluyong, Cebu, San Juan, and Mandaluyong.
so
Pundo po ako sa Mandaluyong, hindi ako pumupunta doon eh. Naka-lockdown ako dito sa Cavite. I'm in Cavite right now.
Oo. So the areas that are hot spots, okay, so we have Cebu, okay, we have San Juan, and then Mandaluyong. So, kaya ginawa na lang namin voluntary. Kasi we have like around 5 people who are living in
discretionary naman yan, pero in many different companies, annual physical exam, compulsory po.
Yeah. Ngayon, it's like voluntary. I'm sorry. I think I mentioned it's now mandatory. No, we made it from mandatory to voluntary. Okay? So, may pahabol ba, Ken?
Wala na. Salamat
Okay.
sa mga questions natin, mga friends natin na nandyan. Thank you for the questions and daming learnings tonight. Yeah.
Okay. So, again, okay, so Saturday, okay, we made it enriching, and then we had a small lecture on organizational development and how it fits in your COVID contingency plans, okay? So you can still type in your comments and suggestions and feedback on the comment section of the watch party, okay? And then we'll see. Miss Flor is also a member of HR Shouts, and while she's, if she can just review it, and then she'll be glad to answer all your questions, even after this podcast. So that was a fruitful discussion. So for now, it's a temporary goodbye. Miss Flor, we'll see you. And Ken?
Yeah. Magandang gabi.
Okay, so magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Okay?
Thank you po ulit.
Okay. And then we'll see you in our next podcast, which is The Joys of Art, and that's on July 15th.
Okay. Have a great night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.